It's here.
Your squad's down 2-0. Minneapolis in the alternate unis, which they've only wore twice. Joe Diedzik says when you were a little tiny dude, you used to play over at the studio rink quite a bit. Is that true?
That is very true. I still skate there in the summers when I'm at home.
So I gotta hear your story a little bit. So, 174 points in high school, all-time leading scorer from the Blake Bears. How did that happen? What's the story, brother? That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it's pretty cool. But was lucky enough to be surrounded by some great teammates all 3 years I played there. We had good squads, a lot of offensive playmakers. Good environment. Was able to put the puck in the net.
So give us a little bit of your story, Joe. So as I understand it, Minneapolis kid, right? Ended up at Blake, then to the Chicago Steel, and then now to Harvard. Played in the Beanpot last night, as a matter of fact. So give us your hockey journey, as the parents like to say these days.
Yeah. So as you said, Minneapolis kid. I actually live 3 blocks away from Parade Ice Garden. So I grew up playing for the Minneapolis Storm, youth hockey, and I actually went to Blake my whole life. So pre-K through graduation was a Blake Bear, and obviously Blake High School right across the street from Parade. And then so after my junior year at Blake, made the transition in the USHL, Chicago Steel. Unbelievable experience playing there too, and at Harvard right now in my third year junior season, and it's been awesome. I've loved every step of the hockey journey, all levels. Love the game, super fun. Wouldn't change a thing.
So you grew up.
Sorry about that.
Go away.
The Beanpot. I grew up watching it. I mean, 70s, 80s, even.
Yeah.
Seems so special from afar. Can you kind of fill everybody in Minnie in, like, how special is that and why?
It's pretty cool. So when people ask me this question, I think the obvious Minnesota comparison is the state high school hockey tournament. And I didn't know much about the Beanpot until I came to Harvard, and I didn't really understand how big the rivalry was, or how big the tournament is, but it's unbelievable. So last night we played at the TD Garden against Boston University. So it's Harvard, BU, BC, and Northeastern. I think it started in 1950, 1952, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's been going on for a long time. Packed house yesterday, like you'd see at the state tourney. Fans going crazy, student sections and all. It's super cool. So to be able to go from Minnesota, where I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to play in the state tourney, to
there you go.
There we go. Hey, you called it, alumni, right?
Wow, amazing.
This always happens. It's amazing. I swear to God, all you got, if you want to win the game, it's just all about the guests. You just got to have the bomb.
Might have to stick around.
Do you know any of these guys? Joe Erickson, Landon Bill. We got 2 brothers, Matushik, if I'm saying that right. Grant and Kellen. You know these guys, or are you too old?
I think I'm a little old. I follow along, so I know the names and I know who they are. But it seems like they're having a pretty good season, and some skill up front. As you said, all those guys.
They're putting up numbers, and they're not playing a soft schedule either.
No.
When you were there, you were playing Tonka. You guys were after everybody.
Yeah, which was unbelievable too. Just being able to play against, all the other best players in the state. But yeah, I was actually just looking at the stats before this. They got Joe Erickson's putting up some serious numbers, and the other guys, as you said, Landon Bell, and are they twin brothers, the Matushuks?
I don't know. Grant and Kellen, they're mirror images. One guy's got 28, the other's got 24 points. But
dang.
Hey, I wanted to hear when you were at the Steel as well. Did you overlap with? I guess you would have been with Fantilli, maybe not. Not Celebrini though.
No, so Celebrini was the year after I left. But funny enough, he lived in my billet house So he went in the year after I did, and then he was out at BU last year. So we have a little bit of overlap. But yes, I played with Fantilli for 2 years.
Yeah, you had just a pipeline coming in of studs in Chicago.
That my first year, my senior year, was absolutely insane because it was COVID year, so all those college guys came back to the USHL. So it was Coronado, Farrell, Fantilli, Doan, Sam Miskevich.
Wow.
Like those are 5 guys playing in the NHL right now.
Right.
Yeah, and we were lucky enough to win a Clark Cup too, which was pretty cool.
Oh, that's
Speaking
great.
of the NHL, have you heard from the Leafs much? You guys keep in contact?
Yeah. It's obviously an interesting process, right? But we do video every once in a while. They're first class organization. They send workout specialists, nutritionists down here once or twice a year. So they're always looking out for me, taking care, which is awesome.
Do they got you on an Austin Matthews mustache plan?
Oh boy.
Is that anything that you could do? Can you go
No,
Pablo? No Pablo?
no, I don't think I'll ever be able to go Pablo. I get the little blonde stash going every once in a while, but maybe need some Just for Men in there, darken it up a little bit.
Well, you got a goal. The goalie of Blake is named Fuzz, so you could probably just hang with him. That's his first name. That's pretty solid.
Fuzz Offit, right? We're actually family friends with the Offits a little bit. So
so you know Katie?
Yeah, vaguely. I know his cousins well, Fuzz's cousins. Ooh, that one almost looked like it went in too. Sorry, go ahead.
Let's talk a little Blake. Just what's the tradition like, the culture? What did it mean to play there? You obviously grew up at the school, and seeing this blue on your screen there out in Boston. What was it? What was it like? That team and that tradition.
It was super special. So as I said, I went there my whole life. So, and it's a pretty small school. So you grow up with everyone, you mature with everyone. You get to become close with pretty much everyone, not just in your class, but in the school. And then obviously, so I grew up playing Minneapolis hockey with like Gavin Best, Will Svendal, Locke and Reed, and then all those guys came to Blake. So it was honestly like a family dynamic. Locker room was unbelievable, and obviously being able to play for Rob McClanahan was pretty cool. So it was really like a family environment, great culture, and obviously we were able to do some pretty special things too.
I saw him speak at a Brooks Foundation event, and he was just such a breath of fresh air because he's old school, but he still understands the young kids today. I mean, what did you learn from him?
A lot. I think what I loved most about Coach McClanahan was, as you said, he's a little old school. Like he work hard on forecheck, everything like that. But he also gave you the opportunity to voice your opinion and ask what you thought or what you saw out there. So it wasn't like you have to do this or you have to do that, but it was more of like it was a teaching dynamic, but also he wanted to know what we were seeing to help implement different things and team strategy in our game. So I loved it.
Did he give you guys a fair amount of offensive freedom?
Oh yeah. Which obviously as an offensive guy, I loved. Yeah, he let us roam. When we got out of it, maybe a little loose on the offensive end, some bad turnovers. He would get on us a bit as any coach would. But yes, he gave us some offensive freedom.
Hey, what's Harvard like? I mean, do you walk around with like a sweater tied around your neck, or like are you super smart now? Are you hanging with Conan
What do you mean
O'Brien?
now?
I'm trying to be. I'll tell you, it's pretty hard to be smart at a school like this. I'll tell you that. But it's great. The team is unbelievable. Probably one of the closest teams I've ever been a part of. I'd say all 3 years I've been here. And it's a lot of fun. I've always been like growing up at Blake. There was that good balance between school and hockey, right? And I think it helps on both aspects where you're not 100% focused on hockey all the time, and it's good away from the rink to get your mind off it a little bit, focus on school, and so the balance is nice, and I feel like I was somewhat prepared for it coming from Blake, which is pretty cool.
Hey, I want to hear you just do a little play-by-play, not play-by-play, but just watch this high school game for a minute. Just tell me what you're noticing, having played at, USHL, college. Just tell us what you're seeing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was gonna say just what I've watched so far is, I swear every year kids get more skilled, faster, better, and I don't know. Obviously, I was playing back in my high school days, but it looks like every year the game elevates a little bit, which is really fun to watch. But what I've noticed here too is just poise. Guys have good like spacing and poise. They're not getting rid of pucks too quick, which I love to see too. What I notice are just every level you move up, right? Like the game gets more structured, it gets more difficult to create offense. So I think it's really important, especially at a high school age, to learn how to be offensive, how to create your own space, like have that offensive upside, because developing that in the high school game obviously helps you translate to the next level a lot too.
So you think about it, when it's easy, it doesn't necessarily benefit you either for the next steps, the next levels. How about like pace of play? What's the difference on the pace of play from level to level?
So I will say in the USHL, my first year, it was hard. Like I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, it's a big jump, but the pace of the USHL is, I would say it's almost faster than what I've experienced in college, just because the college game is more structured, as I said. But obviously high end, like this is double A hockey. Like these guys are playing at a high level, but the USHL, everybody's faster, more skilled. And then when you get to college, I'd say the structure gets mixed in a bit more than I experienced in the USHL or high school.
Joe, I'd love to come back and ask you after you've been in the show if it's slower, because I've had guys tell me that from college to pro, they get into their first camp and they're just racing around because college is so fast. And all these guys are like, bro, you can just slow down. It's okay. We got time. It's interesting. So it's a little more controlled game. So
yeah. Well, and maybe that's different conference to conference too. Like maybe if you're playing in the Big Ten or the Hockey East, like we play Hockey East teams, and it's definitely a different style than the ECAC, where they're a little more run and gun through the neutral zone. It's a little faster. But yeah, obviously at every level you go up, when guys get better and better, it's a lot more structured, and you have to be structured, otherwise you're going to get burned. So yeah.
Your thoughts on the game so far in your life? I'm sure we'll cut you loose here in a second, but what's been like the greatest thing for you that it's brought to your life, both on and off the ice?
Just the community. I know it sounds kind of cliche to say, but at the end of the day, whenever my hockey career is over, you're going to remember the locker rooms, you're going to remember the teammates, all of that. And the game too, I think it's just pushed me in so many different ways. Obviously, it's challenging, as I said, moving up every level. And at the end of the day, I still love it. And that's the most important thing. Growing up, my parents always said to me, the second you stop loving the game is when you stop playing. And so, yeah, I think that community, that family environment, the teams I've been on, the great teammates, that's what I love about the game, and that's what I'll remember.
That's awesome.
Sit tight for 1 minute. We've never done this before. We got an assistant coach from Minneapolis during game, Paul Fletcher, joining us. Hey, hot start with the alternate uniforms. What are we seeing out there, Fletch? How are you feeling about the start?
First of all, I just want to point out that obviously this Joe dude is a Blake guy. Everything he's saying is lies. First, let's start with that. Let's get that out of the way. A good start. There's always things you can clean up. Never, no period is ever perfect in the eyes of a coach. That's the way I see it. But doing a lot of things right. We kind of lost the momentum a little bit at the end of the period. I think we were in our zone quite a bit, taking penalties. So it's time to get back on the train, get things cleared up, stay out of the box, get back to work down in their zone.
And Dzik approved this.
No.
This visit.
No, he'd be angry. He'd be jealous and angry.
Where does he think you are?
He has no idea where I am. Yeah, probably the bathroom.
Bathroom for long line.
Oh yeah.
Okay, give us a final score because I know you got to go back to the bench.
I can't give you a final score. Let Joe Miller do that.
I'll give you one.
You don't want to do it. He scored 174 points.
That's fine. He's way better at hockey than me. I'm just saying it's a little bit of a tainted broadcast. It's a little, we'll bias. And what the heck, man?
Oh, we'll have plenty of Minneapolis people on. You'll be fine. Thank you so much.
He's not very smart, though. He went to Harvard. But I can't hear you either, but it's good stuff.
Oh, good.
This is Tuesday Night Lights. This is what we do.
Is that amazing?
Yeah, I got to fire the boys.
And you can't hear a word.
It's fun. You know me. I can't shut up.
Well, that's never happened. So thanks, Joe.
That's pretty cool. No, I love it.
I wanted to do. So I went to Boston College. Sorry about that, but give me just a take on the East. You've played all these teams, or a lot of them, seen them. What do you think about the landscape out there? Who's going to come through the tournament and potentially beyond?
Oh, I think this year of college hockey is probably the most competitive it's been in a couple of years. We just played BU last night. They're unbelievable. Some top end talent that's crazy. We played BC a couple of weeks ago, and it's the same thing. Or even other Hockey East teams. We played UConn, who's really good. But also looking at the Big Ten, like Minnesota looks strong. Denver's always good. Michigan State. I think down the stretch, it's going to be a lot of fun to be a part of and a lot of fun to watch. I'll tell you, playing those guys on BC and BU is pretty cool. Obviously not always the most fun thing when you're out there playing against them, but they're as a hockey lover and a hockey fan, they're a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, there are some studs. That Ryan Leonard and the kid from BU that you saw last night, Hudson.
Oh yeah,
it's a show every night. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming. Got your number yesterday. I'm like, this is the all-time leader. Luckily, we had a little bit of a Chicago Steel connection. So, hey, hop on the stream. I'll send you the link to the regular stream if you want to keep watching the game. But
I'd love to.
2-1 so far. Kick some ass the rest of the season, and thank you so much for your time tonight.
Of course. I had a lot of fun.
Joe, before you go, I called a boatload of your games, and I loved every minute of it. You were a great player and played the game the right way, and I really respected what you did, and it's been really fun to watch you grow as a person, as a player. Hope everything works out the way you want it to, and I appreciate you joining us here, too.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that. It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Take care,
Joe.
Yep, you guys too. Have a good one.
As we like to say, cheers.
I'm going to send him the link here so you can talk for 1 second while I find this thing. There we go. How great is that? Having an assistant coach on Tuesday Night Lights during the game. That's something I didn't think would happen. I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Hockey Yak. If you haven't got to know Hockey Yak, you need to get to know Hockey Yak. A yak is like a camel, an animal that is strong, has bad teeth, and great flow. And as far as the company, they're going to make your breakaway vest. They're going to make your coach's jacket. They're going to make your jerseys. They're awesome. They supported this experiment. Cub Foods, we'll have some Cub Foods trivia later. And Duke Cannon is on board coming down the stretch here. So if you need some hurricane hold, pomade or a big ass brick of soap. It's all here with Buchanan as well. Should we play one of Spencer's videos here? Take a look at a food review, or he visited the sculpture garden.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yes, we will get one of those teed up for you here real quickly. Ella, I'm grabbing a video.
Time for the intermission food review. Went with the chili and a hot dog. Heard that the chili is super good here, so I'm gonna have to give it a go. That's good. It's really sweet. It's kind of got like more of a tomatoey base. Chili does have a tomatoey base, I know, but it's even more tomatoey than I'm used to.
Wow, he's kind of liking this one, John.
That's pretty good, especially on a cold night like tonight. Let's see what's
He's
up with the
not
hot
chirping
dog.
at all. Another plain hot dog for you.
Not a bad looking dog.
See how he breaks this down.
Decent dog. Nothing to write home about, but it gets the job done pretty decent. I'm gonna give it 7.5 out of 10.
So I guess the knock on the chili, I've heard this from a couple people. The bowl, half full.
Ooh.
Yeah, very frustrated people. A lot of people upset. But I guess it tastes good, but they're only giving you half.
Or what's going on there?
Well, there is inflation maybe, but I guess it's not a full bowl. Both Fletch and Spencer mentioned that, but it's good to get them out there checking it out. Do you have that? I got to see this sculpture garden one. Do you have this?
Ella, do you want to play that sculpture garden?
We're here at the Parade Ice Garden for Tuesday Night Lights with Minneapolis against Blake. And there's a lot of cool stuff to check out here, both inside and outside the arena, so let's go have a look around. The oddities start only about, 100 yards away from the ice rink, as this is actually one of the campuses of the visiting team today. And of course, we're also on the site of the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden overlooking downtown. Demon Driftwood horse, big cylindrical tower thing. You can actually swing on this thing or something. Oh my God. My personal favorite, the big blue cock. Yeah, come on, there's more. Love. Love who? Love what? I don't know, but love. And of course, the most famous of the lot, the Spoon Bridge Cherry. Just the cherry on top of our tour here. And to be honest with you, I think this is actually an ODR. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's ice. It's an ODR, baby. Should have brought my twig and my skates. So that was a quick trip around the sculpture park that was extremely cold. Hockey egg. Top 3 items to keep us warm in the cold.
Easy. Rink jacket, beanie, choppers.
Let's go.
Wow. I mean,
Those choppers are amazing, by the way. Thank you for the pair that you donated to the Pete Waggoner Foundation.
Yeah,
they've been put in play quite a bit.
Spencer's made for this. I don't know what time he left the office. Pete, I did tell him not to say the big blue cock, but I think it's clear. It's clear. It's fine.
No touch. So he had probably pushed the envelope on the editing skills. It was impressive. That was the most produced piece he's given us yet.
Yeah, I think he's looking for a late night job. He might have left the office at noon. I'll have to check.
It was pretty light out when he filmed that first round.
Yeah, he might have got a head start on the game, let's just say. But we're getting what we thought. It is a coin toss, 2-1 Minneapolis, but it seemed like Blake kind of took over once Miller jumped down the stream. We'll have to see if Mike Snee or some of these Minneapolis folks can turn the tide.
Well, this thing's been back and forth, up and down. Each team has taken their moments with each other and had the better of the play. So, it's going to be quite interesting to see where we go here. Fletch mentioned the box being an issue, so we'll see if they can clean that up a little bit.
Skating cheerleaders are the best. That is so Minnesota. So this must be Minneapolis, or I don't know which school has skating cheerleaders, but that is when you got it dialed in.
You know, they have made a surge back into the scene. There's probably a let me mute that play-by-play. But there was a 20-year period where there weren't any, and now it's more and more and more. It's been great. It's been absolutely outstanding. So,
what do you think about adding? There's no cheerleaders really at most NHL teams.
remember the Scarlets back in the day with Norm Green?
That's what I'm saying. I think bring them in. Let's get some skating people on the ice at the pro games too.
But I can't think of an NHL team that did what the North Stars did with them. I don't think anybody else had. It's like it can't happen.
This is amazing. So you bring your kid to the game, you get a half bowl of chili, you get a little ice show in between periods, maybe play chuck a puck. Only in Minnesota, right?
Right.
I mean, this is Disney on ice.
It's amazing.
Oh my God. Is this what they normally do? Or is this more like, is this the figure skating team maybe that came over for a show? I'm not sure what's happening here, but I like it.
I think typically it's those that are in the figure skating club that go to the school. They say, put me in. I'm in.
Oh, we got somebody airborne here. Wow.
Wow, it's amazing. I love your backdrop. John, your backdrop's looking really good.
It is.
It almost looks like that's a crown on top of your head with that Tuesday Night Lights logo. It's just sort of like.
I've had that problem a couple times. Maybe I'll move it a little bit.
No, it looks good. Leave it. It's drawing attention.
Yeah, it's like the Sacred Heart.
What type of attendance do we have there? What's it looking like?
I tell you what, it's good. They came kind of late, but there was a long line out the door. I'd have to turn my head and look out there. I'll have to ask Spencer. He's doing his crowd work right now, so I'll have to check in with him here. Actually, I'll ask him. Hey, what's it like in there? What's the vibe? We played the first three
for us.
It's a little quiet. It's a little quiet. So we just did the Cup Foods trivia, and it was the least energetic group of.
How's the crowd though?
They're okay. I mean, they're out for goals.
So I'm hearing a decent crowd, maybe a little more city style, a little quieter, a little
laid
more,
back.
Just maybe a little bit more reserved than some suburban kid holding on to the glass.
The Braemar Arena glass nearly went, but boom, the other night. It was something I could never believe. So you got this guy in the security jacket. They're sitting there trying to stop. There's no stopping him.
Are you going Dynamites next and then Snee? Is that the plan?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Unless you have Snee set up. I told Scott Harmon to be ready at 7:45, so he should be clicking in anytime. You know what's great about Scott? He does play-by-play for me. Never at a loss of words. Well, you and I could just do this.
You just
let him go.
He's a motor mouth.
Oh, he's phenomenal. I mean, if you want a guest that's going to handle the mic, he's your guy.
That's a good skill to have.
Yeah. It's a really great job with Dynamites, too.
I never even asked you, who do you think is going to win this game? You on the – oh, here we go. We got our guest right here, Scotty.
I'm going to say I love the way Minneapolis is playing, but I think Blake might wear it down in the third. I'll say Blake.
You're going Blake, huh?
Yeah.
So tell us about Scotty here.
Scott Harmon is the executive director of the Dynamites, a program that does some amazing things for city of Minneapolis and St. Paul hockey players. It goes not only on the ice, but off the ice. Scott's also a play-by-play guy for us at MNHockeyTv. He's one of my warriors. I love having him. But I thought, how more appropriate than to have you with the great things you're doing in the city of Minneapolis, with Minneapolis obviously taking on Blake. Can you talk a little bit about what the Dynamites are and what your role within it is as executive director?
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. Great to be here. It's been great to be part of the Minnesota Hockey TV team as well this year. This is actually my 25th year being involved in Dynamite, so I could tell the whole story going all the way back to the early days, but the mission of Dynamites is developing physical, academic, social, and spiritual excellence. So that's easy to remember. It spells out PASS, PASS. And what we really do is whole life youth development with the kids we serve in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So we have programs in each of those 4 areas, and hockey is a big part of that. So that's kind of our physical excellence programming is hockey and some dry land, some off ice stuff. We also do tutoring and academic support, community service, leadership, mentorship, job readiness. We have an outdoor rink. We call it the Billy Lindsay rink. It's on the
Nice.
Midtown Greenway, just a few miles away from, I assume we're at Parade there tonight.
We are.
And so just a few miles away, we have an outdoor refrigerated rink where our high school students at Dynamites can get like their first job, right? The classic first job, you turn on the lights, unlock the doors, and do a little homework, do a little skating. Camping in the summer, we work with kids all year round. Last school year, we served 567 total kids in Minneapolis and St. Paul. This year, we expect our total will be around 700 or more.
That's amazing.
So, and then one more fact I should say, kind of as part of like that elevator speech intro, since we started in 1995, our overall high school graduation rate is 88%. Today, the Minnesota high school graduation rate for the state is 82%. Minneapolis schools, as of late, have been around 75%. The last 5 years of Dynamite's class of 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 100% high school graduation on time.
Well, I'm gonna give you a reality check though, Scotty. So you hopped on, and Blake just tied this game while you were doing your elevator pitch. So you gotta stay focused, because I'm assuming you got to be going for Minneapolis in this game versus Blake, right?
Well, they're both Minneapolis teams, right?
So you're good on either side.
Minneapolis, but yeah, I'm good on either side. Really good.
PC correct, right side of the fence.
Yeah, my job here tonight, I think, is just to be a hockey fan, right? Just to be a hockey fan, not to have a favorite here, one or the other. We have had a few Dynamites over the years play for the Minneapolis public school team. We had, I think, 3 girls on junior varsity last year from Dynamites.
Wow. That's great.
I don't think we've had a boy for a while. We do have a boy playing junior gold this year, so that's great. But for us, our high schoolers, it becomes more about the leadership, academics, tutoring on a Thursday night for our high schoolers is really like the pinnacle of the week. And I think we call it tutoring, but it's really kind of like the youth club. We really build an atmosphere of achievement where it's celebrated to have good grades and celebrated to get your homework in. And, the kids help each other. The tutors help all the kids. But most of all, kind of building that culture of success. So it's
how often do they meet for that?
Yeah, middle and high school meet on Thursday nights. Elementary meets on Tuesday nights. Kind of like the whole process. We want kids to be entering our program at an early age. So our intro program is Learn to Skate. We call it Greg Carroll Learn to Skate. I'd be happy to tell the story of Greg if that comes up. But
please do go.
Yeah, well, so we've been doing Learn to Skate with Green Central School probably since the 90s. So that relationship actually goes even further back than me. There's not that many things that go further back than me at Dynamites, but that's one of them. And Greg was our mites coach in the early 2000s, and he tragically passed away at the age of 47. But he was always a Learn to Skate volunteer and believed that every kid anywhere should have a great first experience skating. So we named the program in his honor. And then last year we had 6 elementary schools from Minneapolis and St. Paul, and we teach all the first graders how to ice skate. And so that's kind of the intro to Dynamites. And some of those kids will enjoy skating enough that they'll want to be on the team and do tutoring. And so, so then we'll have mites. Right now, we have in both our Minneapolis and St. Paul sites, we have mites. I think in Minneapolis, we probably have 3 mites teams. We have squirts and peewees in both sites. And in Minneapolis, we also have a girls team. It's kind of a combined U10, U12 age. And then high school age, if you want to keep playing. And there are occasionally players that are motivated enough, they want to try out for JV varsity. You can do that. If you want to do rec league, we'll help you do that. But like I say, it really kind of becomes more about the academics, the leadership. So yeah, we've got a boy this year. He's a senior in high school. He's really motivated and he's probably going to go to an Ivy League school next year. He's doing a project to help introduce his peers at Dynamites to medical careers. So he's going to partner up with TRIA, and they're going to do some seminars and get to meet doctors and X-ray technologists, nurses, physician's assistants, everything, physical therapists, and maybe some of those kids will go into the medical field. So that's kind of like what happens. We kind of build this happy family, build this culture from early elementary all the way through high school graduation.
So Dynamites is, Scott, would you say Dynamites is like a leadership academy with a side of hockey more so than
yeah, kind of. I mean, I think the best of youth sports, no matter what sport it is youth development, right? Like, I think we're all huge hockey fans, at Minnesota Hockey TV. And we see the hockey development that's gone on with all the players we're watching in all these high school games throughout the year. The best of what's happening with those young people is that they're making friends. They're building life skills. They're learning how to overcome adversity. And we just put that first at Dynamites, right? So when it comes to the hockey, it's the kid first. It's about what are you as a human going to learn in this hockey setting. When it comes to the tutoring, it's what are you going to learn here in this tutoring session? Very few of us get to realize a dream of being a pro hockey player, but we're all going to be pro something. And we're all going to be neighbors. We're all going to be family members. And we need to be pro family members. We need to be great at being neighbors. And I think that's really what we're doing at Dynamites. Our founder, John Foley, had been a youth pastor at Park Avenue Church on 34th and Park. And that's actually where our Minneapolis office is to this day. And this is like 1991 to 1993. And he said he's working with high schoolers. He said that was great, but there was still too many things he was seeing in the kids he was working with that he wished he could change, especially dropping out of school. And he said there's got to be something that can walk alongside young people from early elementary all the way through high school graduation. And he wasn't really a hockey guy. It kind of fell into his lap. He was working at the parks at Park and Rec, I think Green Central Park, where they had a bunch of old roller hockey stuff. And there were about a dozen boys coming to the park every day to play roller hockey. So he's building relationships with the roller hockey boys. And he got a $5,000 check unsolicited from an old friend of his that he'd gone to seminary with. And that guy said, I think God wants to do something with this hockey thing. So he went to the kids and said, you want to play ice hockey? And that's how Dynamite started. So it was really, in the beginning, it was like a means to building relationships with young people that could last for a long, long time. And hockey really lends itself to that because there's so much to learn, right? Especially when it comes to skating. Like, you don't start out like a natural at hockey. Nobody just steps onto the ice and knows how to do it. You have to learn and work at it. And that's really a great analogy for growing up. It's a great analogy for life all the time. That you kind of have to learn and work at it. And so that provides a great opportunity to build those relationships and to use that as a venue to build life skills all the way through, like we say, physical, academic, social, spiritual.
Scott, quick question before we cut you loose here. You've called a lot of games this year at the high school level. What has stood out to you from what you're seeing in boys hockey so far of the games you've called? What have you noticed?
I think for me, what's so enjoyable about it is just to watch these young men and women who have put so much work into this throughout their lives. And now they're kind of like, they're at the top and they're kind of living that dream. They get into wear the jersey for their school, for their community, to do this with the friends that they've worked hard with and grown up with all these years. I think it's really special, and I've gotten to do some really cool games. I've gotten to do some high-end games. I did the Hill Murray versus Stillwater a couple weekends ago, which was hockey night in Minnesota. The crowd was like, the arena was packed, right? And it just took me back, right? It took me back to those days.
Well, let me jump in. John, that thing started out 3-0. It was a natural hat trick for Bowden Sampere. Looks like it's going to be a runner, like they're going into, it's just like they're, and it becomes, what was a 3-2 game or something? It was an incredible game.
3-1. Stillwater hung in there.
Yeah.
All the scoring for Hill Murray was first 7 minutes, and it's like you got the Stillwater kids were sitting just to my left, standing because they stood the whole game, right? Straight across from them, the Hill Murray fans are standing the whole time. And it just felt awesome, right? It was just, it's local, it's hometown, it's that nobody's getting paid. It's just the passion of it. Meanwhile, I did Southwest Christian versus Hutchinson, and the arena wasn't full. It's Richfield Arena, but you could see the passion. And I think Hutchinson maybe got out to like a 4-0 or 4-1 lead. And in Richfield, you're right above the kids. So I could feel everything that they were feeling. And the Southwest Christian kids clawed back in. They made it 4-4 with like a minute and a half to go. And then they fell behind by 2. So it's like 6-4 with a minute 15 to go. And they tied it again. And so you're just feeling that passion. I could see the Southwest Christian kids, right? Like, this is it. For some of them, this is it. Right? Like, this is the pinnacle of everything they work for. And to feel that and feel that close, and to be my job to convey that emotion to the fans is just such a treasure.
We love having you, man. You do a great job on your games. Everybody should listen to you. The passion is real, and it's good. Scott, thanks for joining us here. We got to make room for our next guy to come in. I believe John King, that's going to be Mike Sneak, correct?
Yeah, he said about 2 minutes. So thanks for joining us, Scott, and thanks for the work you do.
Well, and thanks a lot. Say hi to Mike for me. Him and I have a lot in common, and we're talking about some good topics in common, projects we're working on together. So thanks again, and I'll come back anytime.
Love it, man. Take care. Have a good night.
You too.
John, on another note, I don't think I've ever been this sick in my life. I think this has been worse than COVID.
Hey, Sneeze here.
How long did it take for you to hey, Mike, I got to ask this quick question. How long did it take for you to launch it, or do you still have it?
So, Mike, what he's talking about is we did a Tuesday Night Lights, and I had that flu that was going around, and I might have coughed on him for 2 hours straight, and I don't even think he's well yet. So
no, it's been 4 weeks, Mike.
We've done catch a cold through Zoom or whatever this is.
We were sitting next to each other, and I haven't seen him since. I've sworn him off. I'm like, I'm out. I can't do this.
Well, I've missed that bug. I've been sick all winter, so I'm lucky.
Yeah, so you can't get it through here, so you're okay.
I'm gonna set the scene here. Mike Snee joining us from the Minnesota Wild and the Minnesota Wild Foundation, doing the
Minneapolis hockey.
Yeah,
directors, coach.
Yeah. So let's get to that. Okay, so it's 2-2. Minneapolis is wearing their alternates for the second time this year. We had Paul Fletcher come on in game between periods. Never had that happen. I did pick Minneapolis to win. And generally what's been happening with our guest, Mike, is, if Joey Miller's on from Blake, they're going to score a couple. If you come on, this should get them up 3-2, depending on how long you want to stick around with us. So, you feeling good about it?
I typically would say I'm a fan of every team, which means I'm a fan of the referees, I guess. But tonight I'm a fan of Minneapolis, and I'm feeling pretty good. Pretty good. I would say yes. I think when I leave, it'll be 4-2 Minneapolis.
Oh, I love that. I mean, this game,
wow.
The matchup here is awesome. They're basically mirror images of each other. They have about the same records. They both got a couple, strong lines, and the game's kind of ebbed and flowed so far, Snee. Blake was all over them at the start. Then Minneapolis, got hot, and they've kind of switched back and forth. But
sounds like a wrestling match.
Little
100%. Wow, you're going right into my wheelhouse, Mike. I love that.
Sounds like a Superfly Snuka versus Roddy Piper, maybe.
Right on. You get your moment for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden you're down. That's exactly it.
Don't count anybody out.
No, you can't. With your role, how much of high school youth hockey, Minnesota hockey, do you get to participate in? And can you kind of explain how that ebbs and flows and weaves in and out with what you have?
Sure. My role at work, my role with the Wild.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, if you ask my wife, I think she would say that's all I really do. So within Minnesota hockey, they're a huge partner of the Wild. They have been since day one, and I'll give the Wild a lot of credit. They've been great partners to Minnesota hockey, so it's a wonderful relationship. Minnesota hockey, I think you mean, Pete, the governing body of the youth associations, is that, or do you just kind of mean in general hockey in Minnesota?
Well, just in general, but now that you're touching on Joe Delich and the crew there, I think that's great too.
Yeah, and what's interesting, and I don't think this really occurs to a lot of people, but I've been fortunate. I've had these jobs that have allowed me to spend a lot of time thinking about hockey in Minnesota. And I mean, and I'm not a sharp guy, so it took me a lot of time for me to realize some of the things I realize now. I think other people would have got there quicker, but we use this phrase community hockey, but it really means three things. And you just said one of them, Minnesota hockey, which is the governing body of all these wonderful community hockey associations throughout the state. But then there's the high school programs, which we're watching tonight. And then there's the facilities they're playing in, just like Parade Ice Garden, these municipally owned community-run facilities, and the ownership model might be different. It might be a city like Parade, or a park board, I should say, like Parade, or it could be a county like all the Ramsey County rinks, right. Or it could be a private, nonprofit organization like that owns the Heritage Center in Duluth. But they're all nonprofit. They're all meant to serve their communities. Those three things added together are what we define as community hockey, and it is like a stool. Like you learned about our government back when you were a kid. They all rely on each other. And if you lose any one of those three things, then the stool doesn't work anymore. And so Minnesota hockey and the people that you just mentioned, Pete, we work very closely with them, but we also work closely with the high school league, as well as the high school coaches associations for both girls and boys. And then we work closely with Miami too. And probably we need to work even closer with Miami, which is the organization that oversees the ice arenas in the state.
Where have you seen the growth, or what's been different from when you were Minnesota Hockey Executive Director? Then you go to College Hockey Inc., and then now you're kind of re-engaged again. Have there been any changes that you've noticed that have stood out to you?
There's always changes. I would say the net change is an improvement when you look at how even more widely available hockey is in Minnesota. And there's always like a couple steps back, but then there's like 4 steps forward. I don't want to call it a step back, but I'm wearing a hat right now for the Kennedy Eagles. They play their last home game this Saturday against Minneapolis. So I'm wearing a Minneapolis jacket and a Kennedy hat. So I'll fit in nicely on Saturday at Big. But so that's, no other way to say it other than that's disappointing. They were the state champs my senior year of high school and have a tremendous history of hockey. So that's a negative. But at the same time, The second leading scorer on the Minnesota Gophers men's team, second leading goal scorer, I should say, is from Dodge County. Their captain last year is from Laverne, and arguably the best women's hockey player in the world is from Lake City. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming out of places that are either starting or not quite starting. They're on their way, but just great hockey stories. And back when Kennedy was making it to the state tournament, I don't know if any of those three places even had any hockey. So the net effect for our whole state is a plus. We're still growing. We're one of the fastest growing hockey states in the country. We're already the biggest, and we're one of the fastest growing hockey states. However, it can change. We've seen other places that have changed. And because we've had the good fortune of seeing the other places where it's changed, it's shame on us if we don't learn from it and take action. And really the best time to address something is when you're still healthy. It's not like we have to try to turn something around or make up a story. Our story is great, and we are continuing to head in the right direction. So if we just be aware of it and be mindful of it, we can make it even better.
Hey, Snee, so we got a power play for Blake here.
Okay. You want me to
break it down? You don't need to do play-by-play. You don't need to know guys' names. But let's just have you kind of guide us through this power play. Tell us what your eyes see.
Okay, well, first of all, it was a horrible call. I didn't see the play, but it was a horrible call. So that's the first thing. And then looks like a great save there. I think the first time a Blake player touches a Minneapolis player with his stick, he's going to go here regardless, because refs know they owe Minneapolis one here. But,
so you're a believer in the marbles in the pocket theory. That's what Carter says, is if you put one guy in the box, you got a marble on the right, you got to get a marble in the left.
No, I'm actually not a believer in that. I'm just I'm a homer tonight for Minneapolis, so I'm creating my own story. I'm like a Notre Dame football fan. There's no possible way Minneapolis could ever commit a penalty.
No matter how bad it is.
114 years of football, and Notre Dame has yet to commit a penalty. They've just bad calls. Well,
look what you did.
Hold on. I think I know that was a face-off, but it looked like an offsides entry to me. So let's see.
So you think they're going to review it?
Yeah, hold on. You can see Joe Dietzick looking at his iPad right now.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no way he has an iPad. So we're going to we don't go to Toronto. Where would we go? We'd have to go to like Evelyn.
I think no. State High School is based in Brooklyn Center.
We go to Brooklyn Center. Good call.
We got to go to Brooklyn Center.
Freeway Boulevard. Absolutely.
Yes. It's slipping away.
Ryan Hartman pays a visit.
What was that?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a sensitive subject.
Too soon.
Is there genuine animosity between these two teams, Snee? I would think, because a lot of the kids go over, they switch to Blake or vice versa. I would think this is a little bit like a real rivalry here.
They all know each other, but I think that's just youth sports today. They do so much stuff in the off season together that they get to know each other. And not to go down memory lane here, but that's not how it used to be. So there was real animosity. Here, I think there's just a desire to beat people that you know and that you're friends with, which is cool too. So I don't know if there's real animosity.
Yeah, I think that's what I've been hearing too. Like the Miller kid from Blake grew up skating on the studio rink here at Parade with Dietzick, and it seemed like they were kind of neighbors, even though they're going to battle.
Yeah. So whereas the Duluth East kids and the Duluth Denfeld kids in the mid '80s didn't know each other.
Exactly.
And I can speak from experience.
Hey, tell us a little bit about Skate It Forward. Just an amazing initiative. So I want to hear it, kind of how this came about and where you're at in the process.
Tell you a little bit. I want to tell you a lot. That's all right.
The mic is yours, brother.
So it's part of the Minnesota Wild and the Minnesota Wild Foundation. I mentioned earlier, or I should say I defined earlier, community hockey, which is, again, the youth associations, the high school programs, and the community arenas that they play in. And if you look at any measurement, I think the 5 measurements that generally are the biggest ones, everything falls under one of these, which is just how many kids play the game in your state. Good, bad, whatever, serious, not serious. How many kids play hockey? How many reach high levels? So let's just say professional, NHL and PWHL and college. What does it cost the parents for their kid to play hockey? The financial cost. What are the other costs? So travel, time away from school, time away from other family members, kid not living at their home when they're 14 years old, whatever, other non-financial costs. And then just how meaningful is it culturally? Is it when 2 high school teams get together, does it matter to people beyond the kids playing the game? Does it have that Tuesday night lights feel to it? Okay. Those are the 5 measurements, I believe, in looking at it at an area and their hockey and defining, hey, is this good, not good, whatever, when you want to rank areas. Okay. And by every single measurement, community hockey in Minnesota is by far the best. It either crushes or crushes more. It's not even close in any category. And it just gets better by the year. And Minnesota is separating from every other state in the country every year in each one of those measurements. However, because hockey is a youth sport and all youth sports are becoming a big business and a big industry, and hockey in the rest of the country, with the exception of kind of Western Wisconsin and North Dakota, is a business first and not a community thing like it is in Minnesota. Minnesota hockey families are looked at as customers for their businesses. So there's a lot of hockey businesses outside of Minnesota that want Minnesota families as customers, and there's a lot of hockey businesses outside of Minnesota that want to open up shop in Minnesota. And I mentioned earlier that we've learned from elsewhere about what can happen if you shift away from a community hockey model. I don't like using the word model, but people use that word. So if you shift away from a community hockey model, what happens? And the results are not good. So we don't want to have anything to do with that. We want to continue to live in a place where things like Tuesday night lights exist, where a 15-year-old girl or boy can play very, very competitive hockey at an amount that most families can afford. I don't want to suggest that it's cheap, but it's so much less expensive than anywhere else. And you can live in your home for your entire childhood. So we've created an initiative called Skate It Forward. It is it's a play on the movement, the Pay It Forward movement. So somebody buys you a coffee at the drive-thru, at the Caribou drive-thru, and then you're kind of moved by that. So you decide to buy the person behind you 2 coffees. So this is Skate It Forward. We believe that there's a lot of people like the 3 of us that love this whole hockey vibe that we have in our state, that realize that it's pretty special, but that we need to take action and make sure that we're not asleep at the wheel and let this thing get away from us and then we can't get it back. And the 3 things that we really need to do is, 1, make sure that we do not lose this statewide culture of public investment in ice arenas. I know that doesn't sound that interesting. I could talk about it for 90 minutes. You might want to only hear it for about 9 seconds, but just trust me, how our rinks are owned and operated in this state is the most important thing. And how we keep our rinks owned that way, how we keep this culture of public investment, is just to make sure there's more kids playing hockey next year than this year. And then make sure there's more kids playing hockey in 2 years than there are next year. Because if all of our communities are just continuing to grow hockey players, then our communities will continue to figure out a way to fund arenas, build new arenas, and make sure that ice is available to kids. And then the third thing is make sure these stories are told. I will say that I think as much as we tell the stories, and John, Pete, you guys do a great job telling the high school and community hockey stories in Minnesota, we need to be even louder about it. And we need to make sure that people know just how good it is from a development standpoint. But Skate It Forward, long answer, John. And I don't feel guilty that I'm taking a long time because I told you I would. Is that we feel that if we can just make sure that there's more 5- and 6-year-olds playing hockey next year than there are this year, that there's more, that most, if not all, of our potential issues and challenges facing community hockey will be taken care of. So what Skate It Forward wants to do is raise enough philanthropic money out in the state, out throughout all the hockey communities, and reinvest it back into hockey. And eventually, this is ambitious, but eventually, one day, the Minnesota Wild Foundation wants to pay for every single kid in Minnesota to play their first year of hockey for free. So to pay for the hockey registration fees for their association, just to get them over that first hurdle. Hockey has a lot of barriers to entry, but hockey also is like the stickiest sport of all of them. So in other words, it's probably the hardest sport to get a family to let their 6-year-old try. But once their kid is in it, it's the hardest sport to get a kid to quit. And you can just look at any association. Once you're playing hockey, you discover it. It's special. You keep playing it. It's not hard to get kids to play most other sports. It is hard to get kids to play hockey. So we feel like if we can just give them a little more of a shove, we're going to do pretty well once they put skates on. And if we get more kids playing hockey, like I said, and I can't say it enough, if we can get more kids playing hockey, we'll continue to have this wonderful community hockey model that we have.
You know, Mike, one thing I do want to hammer home real quick, John, before we go to our next step here, is having Live Barn as our parent company. I have a front row seat to seeing how these venues are owned, operated, and run at the youth hockey levels around the state. And I don't think people in Minnesota really understand the value of the way these arenas are owned and how that is really what maintains the model that we have. And I could listen for 90 minutes on it because I 100% believe in that. And I think it's really important that you said that and start getting that out there for sure.
Yeah. And so that's on us eventually here is that to make sure that every hockey family, every hockey player, anybody that's involved in it doesn't take for granted that places like Northfield and Bloomington and Hermantown and Maple Grove and Grand Rapids, a wide variety of communities. I know Worthington's pressing hard to get another sheet built. Wilmer's pressing hard to get a covered outdoor rink. We're still doing this. We're still investing in community rinks. We haven't stopped. The rest of the country doesn't do it.
Not at all.
Not at all. Every rink under construction in the rest of the country, and there's not many, but everyone that is, it's a private ownership deal. I'm not saying that that's evil or even wrong. It's different, and the results in that type of setting are not nearly as good as they are in Minnesota. And so I like to let people know, like, we look at ice arenas the way we look at playgrounds, community pools, and high school football fields, is that they're assets for the community, meant to serve the people in the community. They're not meant to make somebody a profit. I'm not opposed to profit. I'm an American. I get it. But when it comes to hockey, we just have something so special here, and it's absolutely vital that we make sure that we don't lose this culture of seeing ice arenas. Ice arenas are to our communities in January what the football field is to our communities in September.
I have one question, and then I got to tell you a quick story that'll warm your heart because I know this is your passion as well. But did you name the program? I love the name. Were you the guy that kind of mixed the Pay It Forward with Skate It Forward, or who named it that? It's such a good name.
I named it about probably 4 years ago. I just had nowhere to go with it.
Those are the best ideas, though. The ones that you carry around with you forever in your pocket. Tuesday Night Lights was that for us. I wanted to do this 4 years ago. We talked to Waggoner when we first started, but the app wasn't ready until Live Barn made this investment and could do it. And he calls me back 4 years later.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one quick story, Sneak. So a buddy of mine was just out in Boston watching some hockey, and he said the parents, it felt different. They were angrier, and they were, there was a lot more of that ROI feeling where it's like, this is a lot of our money, so this better go well, or it's a bad investment. And I was telling him it's because I know you don't like the word model, but Massachusetts was pretty similar to us even when I was growing up, and they let those rinks slip away, and now it's turned into a business. And so what ends up happening is when it becomes a business and you're spending $10, $20, $30,000 for your kid to play hockey, you start to get as angry at the hockey team as Xfinity Internet or something, right? Or Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
And that's why it's happening. That's why the neck veins and the veins in their forehead, it's because they changed the model, and so now it's off kilter.
Yeah, and I don't want to pretend that it's perfect in Minnesota. It's not perfect. There are challenges and issues, and there are certainly parents that, I don't want to use the word crazy, I'll just say parents that are exceptionally involved in their children's hockey, okay? But I still believe 93.5% of hockey in Minnesota is super cool. And I'm an example of that. I'm a volunteer coach. My son's a Bantam player. He's a competitive player. I don't think he's going to go to the NHL, but he's having a very competitive experience. All of his teammates were in Minneapolis. Every single one of his teammates is from Minneapolis. We have 4 kids in our immediate area here in Minneapolis, so we can carpool with. All of our practices are either in Minneapolis or right over at the Richfield Arena. Half of our games are in Minneapolis. The other half of our games are in neighboring communities. Some of our families get upset when we have to drive to Delano, which is in our district, because it's 46 minutes away. And then you talk to families elsewhere and what's required for their kid to play competitive hockey. And when you start to invest that money, and the money is an important part. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say that it is literally at times it's 10 to 15 times more money, but it's more than the money. It's also the identity, your family's identity. When you're taking your kid out of school every other Friday to hop on a plane and fly somewhere to play hockey, you start to have to justify that decision. And like you said, then you start to think about what's the ROI here. We don't really have to justify much because we're going to drive to Hopkins on Saturday morning for a Bantam B1 game, right?
No, it's true.
Yeah. Now, families in Minnesota certainly have the ability to do all that if they want to send their kid away to go play somewhere else because they believe that's right for them. They certainly can do that, but you can also have a very competitive, dynamic hockey experience in Minnesota and have it be extremely normal. Kids in the rest of the country, they don't have that option. I mean, there's like house leagues and rec leagues, which is wonderful. But if you're a player that's trying to strive to reach the highest levels, they just construct the model and the path in those places that it almost requires that you get on the crazy train. You don't have an option not to get on the crazy train.
Snee, I want you to watch some shenanigans here, especially this trivia, because I think you'll know some of the answers. But so when we do these Tuesday night lights, what we want it to be someday is College Game Day meets Manning Cast, right? And so we got one of our Pulltab guys running around. So I want to play a few of these videos while you're with us and see what you make of them. I think we're going to.
So I'm supposed to answer a trivia question?
No, when the trivia video comes on, you can try to guess the answer before the kids. But I think this first one is going to be a Duke Cannon video. Let's see what Spencer has.
It's time for some Cub Foods trivia question.
Trivia.
Since the Minneapolis team's a combined co-op, how many times have they made the state tournament since combining?
Once.
Got it. You get a Cub Foods gift card.
Hey, thank you.
Nice work.
And what are you gonna spend that gift card on?
Probably candy.
What kind of candy?
Sure, chicken bake.
Chicken bake. All right. Can you name 4 of the 7 schools?
Southwest
Washburn, Southwest, Edison,
South.
North.
He's got 4 first. Nice.
Okay,
All
you're
right,
tied with
you
the
guys
kids
get
right
one
now.
more question, and this one's gonna be for a T-shirt. So we've got a few of those Hockey Yak T-shirts over there. So, what mountain range can yaks be found in?
Andes.
Appalachian.
Himalayas. You got it. And we need to know, what are you gonna spend your Cub Foods gift card on?
Prime.
Nice. Leading goal scorer right now on Minneapolis. If you know it, you can steal it. Eli, you got it. Cub Foods, what are you going to spend that gift card on?
Food.
What kind of food, man? We need more.
I don't know.
It's okay. Under pressure, it's okay. We're going to give you guys another chance. We got another question for you. Do you want a hard one or an easy one? Easy? Okay. So this arena was used to film a famous Disney movie. What movie is it?
Mighty Ducks.
There we go. You had me worried there for a second, man. I was really nervous. Got it. What are you spending your gift card on?
Food.
What kind of food?
A drink.
What kind of drink? You have to be more specific.
Wogan, a white monster.
A white monster? White monster it is. So, Cub Foods, are there over or under 100 Cub Foods stores in Minnesota?
Over.
Over is the answer. $20 to Cub Foods right there. Easiest $20 you ever get. What are you going to spend it on?
Candy.
What?
Candy.
Candy. What kind of candy? Don't know, but candy. Okay.
Candy for my boyfriend for Valentine's Day.
That's the answer we like. Good for him. One more. Do you guys want it? Yeah, all right. I'm gonna give you a hard one. Last one's hardest one, okay? So the Spoon Bridge in Cherry outside, what year was that installed? I told you it was a hard one. What year was the Spoon Bridge in Cherry installed outside? You got the 8 right. Who said 78? Close. It ends with an 8. You guys are all around. 88. It's 88. It's 88. You got so close, and you're just bouncing around it. What are you gonna spend your gift card on?
I would say for my girlfriend back here on Valentine's Day.
Wait, so you guys are? Oh, wrong one. But Valentine's Day candy is what's hot here.
Yes, that's what's hot over here.
What's your favorite candy? What's he getting you?
Twizzlers.
Is that actually what it is?
I'd say so. One of them.
Wow, that was intense. He is in the mix with the crowd. We could break that into seasons. That could be.
I learned a lot there, but I'll tell you, I learned more from him when I found out choppers are just a Minnesota thing.
That only exists in Minnesota?
Well, wasn't that him that said that at Hockey Day?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a Minnesota thing for sure.
Yeah, because I got a hard time for wearing some ugly gloves, and I thought these aren't ugly gloves; these are choppers. And then I saw his video.
True story. Story.
Just like breezers, choppers and breezers.
So do you feel? You said 4-2. So you think this is a race to 4, Pete? I think we're picking up some audio from the other game there. Are you predicting race to 4 here, Snee? Or
well, I would say when I said 4-2, I meant 4-3. Okay, that's obvious, and so that just requires that Minneapolis gets a couple here, which I don't see. I don't see a scenario where they don't. And I'm going to call the DeYoung kid. I think he's going to get one of them.
Okay.
How's that? And then I think I'm going to go with Owen Christensen.
We'll have to get a board with the fat hat and stick his face on the wall now. We have to do that.
The prediction wall.
Yep. You got to get the BRB as well.
4-3
Mike,
Minneapolis.
I've been dying to ask you this. Your thoughts. I mean, it's hard to go crystal ball on this, but the major, junior, and college hockey. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? You know, with your work with College Hockey Inc., does it open up opportunities for more schools? What are your thoughts?
Well, it depends on how you're looking at it. It's a bad thing if you're focused on the American player, because suddenly there's maybe 2,000 players that are eligible that weren't eligible before, and almost all of them are non-Americans, mostly Canadians, some Europeans. I think this past year there were only 67 Americans playing major junior. Now, not everybody that plays major junior is eligible, or not eligible, I should say, good enough to play NCAA Division I hockey. But if you just sift through that group of players, certainly there's several hundred that are good enough, and then within that several hundred, there's a good 30, 40, 50 that are really good players. And some of these really good players will soon be making their
decisions on where they're going to play college hockey. And I think it will really shake up the hockey world when you see some of the caliber of some of these players. Because I think there's still people out there that just don't believe that some of these guys are going to choose college hockey, and they will. So what'll happen, my predictions are, in the next few years are going to be kind of ugly for a variety of reasons. But just fast forward 5 years down the road, when this is the norm and not new, the caliber of play in college hockey will be higher, noticeably higher. The trickle down of that will be the caliber of play in Division III will be noticeably higher. The caliber of play in high-level club hockey will be higher. Okay, so that's one thing. And then two, it'll be less American. So right now, I believe it's about 67% American. It might be somewhere in the mid-60s, 65% American. And over, once it, like I said, once we get caught up here 5-6 years down the road, I don't even want to predict, but it'll be less than that, that are American. And under the current situation, you've got, I think, 60 major junior teams and 64 men's Division I programs. And for the most part, there's no crossover. You're either kind of doing the college eligible thing and then college, or you're doing the major junior thing and then you're turning pro, or going to a Canadian university. And they're very distinct from each other. Now there will be more crossover. So a lot of the kids that will go play major junior will play college hockey. So you'll have just a narrowed pyramid. I think that's probably a negative. But again, it depends on how you ask the question. If your question is, will college hockey have more better players? Yes. So one might say, then I think that's good. But if your question is, will college hockey be more American? The answer will be no. And somebody might say, well, that's either a negative or that's just what it is. But so it depends on your prerogative. In the end, though, I think what it really got down to is when major junior players were first declared ineligible by the NCAA and by college hockey. It was a long time ago, like in the 70s, when every college hockey player came in right after high school, and they all came from either high school hockey or prep school hockey or maybe like midget hockey somewhere. And colleges were not using junior hockey like they use it now. And then over time, meaning 50 years, it changed so much that the average age of a college hockey Division I freshman this year is over 20 years old, the average age. So, I mean, that means if there's a 19-year-old freshman, there's a 21-year-old freshman to make that average 20, okay? The average age of a Division III freshman is even older than it is for Division I, okay? Yep. And then, so now, a college hockey player plays almost as much junior hockey as a major junior player. You'll go look at some of these college hockey players. They play 5 years of junior hockey. And junior hockey is junior hockey, whether you're playing in the USHL or you're playing in the OHL. And the USHL is a very good junior hockey league, but it's junior hockey. The experience is the same. You're detached from school. You're living in a billets home. You're playing a lot of games, 70 games. You're on the road a lot. You can be traded. There's very, very little difference. There's really isn't any difference in the experience for the player. So the argument that one player was eligible and the other player wasn't, I think it just ended up kind of dawning on people that it was, it just was no longer logical. So whether you're for it, against it, or a little bit of both, you can be anywhere on that spectrum, but it's really hard to defend saying that, hey, that kid in Muskegon is totally eligible and that kid in Flint is totally ineligible. That's a pretty hard argument to defend.
Yeah, and I hope it leads to massive expansion of NCAA. And you get Stanford playing hockey, get some of these Big Ten schools playing hockey, get North Carolina and Duke playing hockey, because there's going to be more players. So the best way for it to level out is if we can get more opportunities for all these players. And that's what I hope happens, because I think you're right. It's going to be a little bit like NIL, right? It's going to be scary at the start. No one knows what's happening. And then it kind of levels off. and you're like,
Yeah,
the quarterback from Alabama makes a bunch of money. Okay, that makes sense, right? It settles down. I think the same thing will happen. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and right now, a number of the 18-year-olds in Major Junior, they didn't know they were going to be eligible, so they haven't necessarily done what they've needed to do to be eligible academically. Not all of them, but certainly a fair number of them. But now a 14-year-old kid, wherever that 14-year-old decides to go, they know that college hockey could be an option for them, so they'll be just more aware, most of them, of their academics. But you brought up Stanford, and one really cool project that I worked on when I was at College Hockey Inc. was Arizona State. That was a really rewarding project to work with Greg Powers, who's still their head coach out there, but he was their club hockey coach. And we kind of shot for the moon and almost like went past the moon. When you look at what they have now with that beautiful mullet arena on campus, and they're such a great program, and they're in the NCHC, that was kind of the dream. But that just started as a conversation, like what if, and it actually came to pass. But another one that's just as rewarding is Augustana. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for schools that profile like Augustana and not like Arizona State to say, hey, let's make this our signature sport, and look at the success that Augustana is having quickly. And granted, they have a phenomenal coach, Garrett Raboyne, who's from Detroit Lakes, played at St. Cloud State. He's a tremendous coach. But they're building something special there. And then I always like to throw in, they got a Minneapolis kid on defense there. And then one of their top scorers is from Kitson County Central up in Halleck, Minnesota. And not only did he play high school hockey all the way through his senior year, he played like 4 or 5 sports when he was in high school. It's just like, those are the stories back to like, what do we need to do? We need to make sure that people are aware that 48% of Minnesota's boys high school varsity programs have at least one alum playing Division I college hockey this year. Most people don't know that. Most people would guess probably 15 or 20%. And Augustana is one of the better teams in the country, and they're utilizing players like that to build this pretty cool program out there.
Really cool.
Yeah. But I don't know. I got way off track there. Answer your question, Pete. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm more of like the neutral approach. I don't say it's good or bad. I do acknowledge that it just kind of had to happen. And then just depending on your prerogative would be whether you think it's good, bad, or neither.
That's exactly where I stand on the mic. I get asked all the time, well, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know. You got to let it see. You got to let it play out. I don't know you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, and what I would say, though, the outcome of that, especially if you're here in Minnesota, is it's already a long path to college hockey for most players.
Yeah.
Like I said, the average age of a college hockey player is 20. Okay. Now, if you're if you're a super special player, if you're Casey Middlestad or Brock Faber, then you can maybe go to college, not at 20, but the majority of good college hockey players start when they're 20. So knowing that, start with that in mind and then work backwards. Well, now with suddenly, let's just say 1,000 more good players to compete with for these spots, it's only going to get older. It's not going to get younger. So think about that. If you're sitting there thinking like, hey, I averaged a point a game here as a junior in high school, I need to leave and go to junior hockey. All you're going to do is add a year of junior hockey to your long junior hockey career. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So that's the type of thing that we need to make sure parents and kids and people that advise them and the media that they understand the facts and the reality that something that already is long is about to get longer.
Absolutely. And you know what? If you're going in as a 21-year-old, guys, you got to want it pretty bad, because you're putting your life academically on hold for what your next steps are if you're not playing hockey after. And I think there's some attrition there too. John, go ahead.
So Snee, you obviously got Louis, who we love from Minnesota hockey. You have another younger son, and what's his first name?
Pete Snee. He's a second-year Bantam in Minneapolis, and Louis and me are his coach, so it's a bit of a family affair.
So I'm going to let you in on something. This is kind of a big bit of research that Pete and I have conducted during Tuesday Night Lights. So all you had to do to have one of your kids be a stud hockey player is you needed to have their first name start with the same letter. So if you would have had a Sammy Snee, that kid is on a great path today. That is the trick. It's you need the alliteration. You need a Rory Riddle. So did you feel like if you could go back, would you consider maybe going with the alliteration if it could get to a higher heights?
Well, I'm thinking Pierre Pilat. That comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly. That's all.
Peter Puck.
My favorite.
That's,
Peter
that's a good one.
I'm trying to think of some other ones. Devin Dubnyk.
We got.
I guess
It matters. It really matters. And I'm going to do I looked at the rosters tonight, Wags and Snee. You can tell me if you agree. We'll give this. We'll make this a Duke Cannon all name team for tonight. So on Blake, we have Chase Clausen. This is what I'm
hang
talking
on, John. Speaking of Duke Cannon, should we take that video while there's a timeout right now?
Yeah, go
is
for
that
it.
Let's do that.
with the
I'll fire that Duke Cannon video right now.
It's time for some Cub Foods trivia
Wrong
questions.
one.
Since the Minneapolis team's a combined co-op,
That's the wrong one.
how many? Ready? So we've got some deals with Duke Cannon, one of our big sponsors, and we're gonna give it to the guy with the best flow. Who do we rate here has the best flow? All right. Who has the worst flow and needs some hair product? Yep. He knows it.
Take the hat off.
Yeah, let's take the hat off. Let's see. Yeah, you need it. You need it. Is this going to be like daily, twice daily? What's the plan here?
Maybe once.
Once a day or just once, period?
Once.
Then you're going to forget about it.
No, we're going to keep using it.
All right, he's going to keep using it.
Guys.
Well done. Here's my all name team, Snee. We're going to go Chase Clausen. We're going to go Fuzz Affel. Is that how I say his last name?
Offit.
This goalie's name is Fuzz Snee. I mean, that's outstanding.
That's
Jimmy.
good. That's
Jimmy Hughes.
That's Gump-like, I would say. Fuzz and Gump.
Yep, Fuzz
and
Gump.
Gump.
We got a Jimmy Hughes on Blake. That just sounds like good. And then on
It sounds like
squad,
Jimmy Dodig to me.
Oh yeah. Minneapolis.
He's a Minneapolis kid.
Yep.
Minneapolis. I'm going with Milo Black. Cool name, Milo Black. And
Milo
Hudson.
Black, I like that.
We got a Hudson Cruz with
Where's
a K.
Johan? You didn't put Johan on there?
No, Hudson Cruz, Milo Black, Fuzz, Chase Clausen, and Jimmy Hughes. That's your Duke Cannon all name team from Tuesday.
You don't like Axel Bisbee?
I love Axel Bisbee. Is he on the roster? I missed him if he was.
Yeah, I believe
Mike,
so.
Mike, do you say is it Krajan? Johan? Do you know
Pardon
that name?
me?
Is it Johan Krajan? Is that how you say his name?
Johan Santana?
No. What number is that kid? I don't have the roster in front of me, John. On Minneapolis. Is there
on Minneapolis. I was overthinking your.
I love the
show.
Santana angle though. That's a good.
How are you feeling on the comeback here, Snee?
Still pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of time left, and we're talking about Minneapolis.
It's got Nick Lemon here.
The thing about the Minneapolis kids, they were well coached growing up.
Okay. Don't pat yourself on the back too much.
We'll have the sling in the mail for you.
I got a jacket for free.
You got to get a hockey yak jacket. That's the stuff. We just got they're one of our sponsors, and they did coaches jackets for us, which are outstanding. And they also have something called a breakaway vest that you would look pretty good in, my friend.
I would.
Wow.
I don't have any vests.
Which
I've always I've always thought like my arms are actually first to get cold and my chest is last to get cold. So a vest is kind of backwards. You should wear sleeves.
You could wear one of those arm sleeves.
No body. Yeah.
Yeah.
I look like Dwayne Rudd on the Vikings.
Right.
Let's get one of those.
You go to school there.
Yeah, it's a good call. No, I'm feeling good about the comeback. I think Minneapolis is notorious. They're always been a third period team. Always.
Can I get a quote on you? I've always been fascinated by Joe Dietzick. I think this guy is like the Great Gatsby. He's like, guys want to be him, girls want to be with him. He's just this icon. Kind of helped rebuild Minneapolis hockey. You have any good Joe Dietzick stories?
I've run into him twice at Isles Buns getting puppy dog tails, which is what I was doing too. So we share a because you run into him once. That's just kind of like could happen with anybody, but you run into him twice there. Then you have a shared affinity for cinnamon treats. So what is kind of a rule I live by.
What is a puppy dog tail? Is that like a glazed donut situation?
Oh, you've never had them?
I've never had one.
Oh, you got to go.
Well, what is it? You got to tell me what it is.
Go ahead.
It's not. I've been in on it for like 25 years, so I'm not new to the party. But they were just named the best cinnamon roll in the world, and it's legit. We're not talking the best coffee from Elf. We're just legitimately the best cinnamon roll in the world, and it's true. They're good.
Yeah, they're kind of like spun, I mean, it's sort of like a kind of goes. You know what I mean? It's like a puppy dog tail.
Yep. Yeah.
I would love to see an OT
Formed,
game.
they're beyond. They're worth the drive from the east side, John. They're worth it.
Okay, I'm interested. I got the little C though. I got celiac, so I don't know. I might not be able to partake in the old puppy dog tail.
Oh, that's not good.
No, not good for baked goods generally.
Oh.
But I could smell it or just take one for the team and eat it and deal with it the next day.
The smell is worth it, and they also just have a tub of frosting. You can take extra frosting. You can just take frosting. You don't even need to put it on any. You can just spoon it up and eat that. I don't know if a celiac can eat frosting, but you can just go for the frosting.
Yeah, you just skip the middleman of the tail, and you just go right after it. And the frosting's unreal.
Hey, Sneed, tell us about your skate, your old man skate. This is one of the great traditions. I think it's 30 years in running, right? Your skate.
More, yeah. It's the most consistent thing in my life.
Set the scene for us. What night?
So
what time?
I don't really have to set the scene because we're looking at it. It's at that rink right there that you're staring at. We go old school. We don't connect anybody's iPhone. We have them turn on the radio. We've settled on 104.1. Which means there's a 92% chance every Monday night when we play hockey that you'll hear something by Def Leppard. Okay. And actually underrated, you're going to hear something by Billy Squier as well.
Ooh,
it's surprising how Billy Squier's very underrated for his music, his
in the dark
society, as well as his just kind of like his presence at Monday Night Hockey. But I've got an adult group. And not really, because we bring along a couple bands from time to time. But I started playing hockey at Parade on Mondays in September of 1994, 30 and a half years ago. And a lot's changed in my life since then. But I still play hockey every Monday. And I have an aspiration to unseat Mark Surdich from his role as the oldest ever hockey player in the U.S. He's that classic Duluth guy that had the handlebar mustache that played hockey.
I was going to ask you that.
He played hockey till he was 99.
Yeah.
He surprisingly passed away. I mean, you just never know. But he did pass away. But he had played hockey like a week and a half before passing away. And he is in the Guinness Book of World Records. And he is an absolute gem of a person. If you don't know who I'm talking about, please Google him now because you'll never forget him. But I hope he enjoys his title because he's going to be giving it up. I got to do my math on the fly here. He's going to give that title up in about 39 years, I think. I did my math correctly. So I'm honing in.
Empty netter. The comeback is over, Mr. Snee, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that was a quick third period.
Yeah. I want to just a couple questions on the skate because this game is winding down.
You've been invited, by the way, John, and you've said no.
I don't know that I said no. I may not have responded. I'm not a good communicator. Ask Pete. But do you go lights and darks? And do you any little quirks like I know Brat in Roseville uses like an egg timer for shifts. Are there any? Is it always the same teams, lights and darks, or what's the nuance of it?
Well, the nuance is I lost a lot of money so I just got brought in by my cousin who was playing in it. And then the guy who ran it forever in 2008, he just wanted out. And I'll be frank, he started to get pretty lazy. So I would say 1 out of every 3 times we would only have 1 goalie. And playing a game with 1 goalie is not even fun.
Awful.
And so I took it over because I wanted to make sure that we had 2 goalies every time. And but I was also naive, and I'd say I lost my shirt the first few times because people would say they're going to play, and then they wouldn't pay, they wouldn't show up, and then they just wouldn't return your phone call, because that was when we made phone calls. So I quickly figured that out, and now what we do is we just get 28 guys. We split the bill for the session, the 4-month session. And if you have 28 guys, you're almost certain to have 16 to 22 show up on any given Monday. I've got a goalie list that is deep, and it has been a long time. Like three presidents ago since we last had a Monday night hockey game with less than 2 goalies.
Where do you find goalies? Like, seriously.
Anytime, if I overhear somebody tell somebody, like we're in line at, let's say I'm in line at Isles Buns, and that's not uncommon because Isles Buns always has a line. So if I'm in line at Isles Buns and I hear, a couple people up, somebody say, well, I'm a goalie, then I'll just introduce myself and we'll swap contact info. Yeah. And then you're extra valuable if you also skate out. And that is critical. I've learned along the way here, just like I've learned about the magic of community hockey, I've learned how to operate an adult men's Monday night skate. And the key is to have a couple of skaters that are also goalies that can play goalie in pinch, because nobody's sitting around on a Monday at 7:00 hoping to get a text saying, can you play goalie tonight? So you got to have somebody coming already that's willing to play goalie. So I might become like, what is it? Fractal working? Is that what they call it now? Fractional working, whatever the heck that phrase is.
Yeah,
I'm going to become I'm going to be an adult hockey consultant because I've got a lot of tricks.
That's awesome. Hey, Snee, thanks for joining us. I'm sorry we didn't get the comeback for you. I'm very happy about what you're doing with Skate It Forward, and clearly it's a passion project, which all good things are. I want to thank our sponsors, Cub Foods, Hockey Yak, Duke Cannon, for helping us with this experiment on the prairie here, Tuesday Night Lights. We got one more. We're going to be, I think we're in Rogers next week, or at least we're watching the juggernaut that is Rogers High School boys hockey. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Snee, take care of yourself. Wags, get healthy, and we'll see you next week. Thanks,
you guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.